Are you serious? Are you serious, guys? Get some coffee, everybody. Let me just tell you what's happening. Unbelievable. But now Henry Kissinger, he's back. Yes. And he has he's beginning to move onto the world stage again at the age of 97. And he's publicly speaking now toward Joe Biden. Let me just tell you what's going on right now. First of all, let's put a shout out right now to and a word from one of our sponsors, and that's called www.backupsolarbank.com. That's backupsolarbank.com. Look, the United States has no strategic transformer reserve in an event of an EMP attack, meaning if we are attacked in an electronic EMP, if it was to hit America, very likely by an invading nation like Russia, China, or North Korea or someone, America's power grids could potentially be down for up to 18 months in some areas of the country. This is one of the reasons, guys, this is seriously one of the reasons why people are concerned right now. And one of the reasons why you need to come up with a way that, because an EMP would fry a lot of components if it knocks the grid down, but you could have access still to satellites for phone and internet. So the thing is, what you should do is you got to make sure you can charge it. And here's the deal. This is a great product. It's called, you go to www.backupsolarbank.com. That's backupsolarbank.com. This product is perfect. Okay, you can charge, your phone, your computer can charge off of it, and other small, maybe or transistor radios, different things like that you could use, because this is a heavy. Here it is. I took it out of the box. Heavy, very heavy duty solar bank, and it's solar powered. Solar powered. Okay, so it will. There you go. You can just keep using it. And it's very long life in it. So I'm going to tell you, this is a great product. Very great product. Just go to www.backupsolarbank.com. I'm proud of that product because that's a quality product. That's www.backupsolarbank.com. Works great too. All right. Now here we go. Guys, here's the story. I'm glad you guys are back. It's still morning in Oklahoma, but we've got news coming on really, and you got to look at this from a global standpoint, as you see a more of a global initiative now starting to be implemented by really world leaders and global thinkers that are out there. And you got to understand what the agendas are. And, I've been studying the Agenda 2030 at the United Nations for a long time, and it's comprised of different components, whether it's the World Food Bank, whether it's the International Monetary Fund, or UNICEF, or the World Health Organization. You've got all of these, the World Economic Forum, okay, central bankers, the Trilateral Commission, okay, the Council on Foreign Affairs, which was all started, that was started by, David Rockefeller and some of these guys from way back. And you got Henry Kissinger's been around forever, okay? And now he's back. And here's what he's saying. Just got this information on him. I think I'm okay. Yes. I'm still alive, right? Okay. Here's what Henry Kissinger's saying. This is a report coming out of Bloomberg, actually. Kissinger warns Biden of the U.S.-China catastrophe on the scale of World War I. Now, this is being reported by MSN News, of course, at Bloomberg. Former U.S. Secretary of State Henry Kissinger said in the incoming Biden administration, according to his words, should move quickly to restore lines of communication with China that have frayed during the Trump years, according to Kissinger, or risk a crisis that could escalate into military conflict. Unless there is some basis, he said, for some cooperative action, the world will slide into a catastrophe comparable to World War I. Kissinger said during the opening session of the Bloomberg New Economy Forum. He said military technologies available today would make such a crisis even more difficult to control than those in the earlier eras. And that's, of course, even we're talking the Cold War eras, of course, after World War II. America and China are now drifting, he said, increasingly toward confrontation. And they're conducting their diplomacy in a confrontational way. Speaking of China, the 97-year-old Henry Kissinger said in an interview with Bloomberg News editor-in-chief, the danger is that some crisis, even more difficult to control than those of earlier eras. He said the danger is some crisis will occur that will go beyond the rhetoric into actual military conflict. The diplomat who paved the way for President Richard Nixon's historic 1972 trip to China said the hope that the shared threat of the COVID-19 pandemic would provide an opening for political discussions between the two countries when Joe Biden takes office on January 20th, 2021. This is according to the words of Henry Kissinger. These aren't my words. Now, let me read on. If you can look at COVID as a warning, he said, in the sense that it is dealt with by each country largely autonomously, but its long-term solution has to be on a global basis. According to Henry Kissinger, he said it should be dealt with as a lesson. So what he's saying is that each nation trying to fix the COVID issue has failed and that it has to take a global approach. And he's also saying that we should use the pandemic to provide an opening for political discussions. Okay. Now, this is very similar to what we're hearing Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau say. He wasn't referring to China-United States relations, but Trudeau was talking about that he even said it. He said we should use the crisis of the virus to further a global agenda that is it's called a global reset, a new economic global system where wealth is basically, it's socialism. It's actually communism, but where you take and you just take from, the Robin Hood effect. You take from the rich and give to the poor. That sounds like, well, that's fair, but you have to understand when you start taxing the businesses to the point it doesn't make sense to be in business, you take the money from them, you just give it away. But at the end of the day, there's no jobs. This cannot be the process. There has to be a fair process on how to take care of everyone. But obviously, it's not by communism, socialism. You just can't go this way. And I mean, but this is part of the global agenda, guys, that we're hearing now. They're starting to crawl out of every corner, including Kissinger. And now Kissinger's saying, let's use this virus to what? Rebuild relationships with China? Look, China is using this virus as a way to destroy America. I think you got to stop for a minute, time out, and say, where did the virus come from? So what is the agenda of it? Is really my question. But I'll read on. If you can look at COVID, he says, as a warning, in the sense that it's a practice that in practice it's dealt with by each country largely autonomously, but its long-term solution, according to Kissinger, has to be on some global basis. Kissinger said, U.S.-China relations are at their lowest in decades, despite the two sides reaching a phase one, a trade deal at the start of the year. Since then, the virus outbreak that began in Wuhan, China, has gone global, killing more than 1.3 million people, including almost 250,000, excuse me, here in the United States. Sorry, too much coffee, I guess. And guess what? Besides killing 1.3 million people, crushing the economies around the world. So as President Donald Trump stepped up his criticism of China, blaming it for the spread of the virus and the death toll in the United States, each side also has ramped up more moves the other sees as hostile. That's incredible. I had a hiccup out of nowhere. In 11 years of live broadcasting, I've never had that happen. That's strange. Anyway, maybe I'm talking about a strange area. As President Donald Trump stepped us up, of course, he had to. He was, he said, this is where it came from, and they didn't tell us in time until it was too late. Last week, China's crackdown on Hong Kong's autonomy continued as officials there disqualified the lawmakers viewed as insufficiently loyal to Beijing. U.S. officials have decried the death of one country, two systems. That was the original agreement with the British Empire when they handed Hong Kong back over to China. China said, we promise you'll be one country, two systems. That's gone, guys. The one country, two system policy that helped Beijing navigate its ties with the West for a generation is gone. The U.S. followed up its criticism by imposing new sanctions, banning investments in 31 Chinese firms it says are controlled by the country's People's Liberation Army. And Trump has a more confrontational method of negotiating than you can apply indefinitely, says Henry Kissinger. It was important for Trump, he said, to emphasize the deep concerns Americans have about the evolution of a world economy that is not balanced. I think that was important to emphasize. So there, Kissinger agrees with Trump. But since then, I would have preferred a more differentiated approach. A swift erosion in ties this year means China and the United States are edging toward a new Cold War. I think it's not a Cold War. I think it's a phase one of a more volatile, dangerous war. But Kissinger says we're edging toward a new Cold War. Kissinger also added that the two sides should agree that whatever other conflict they have, they will not resort to military conflict. So to achieve this, he says the United States and China should jointly create an institutional system by which some leaders that our president trusts and some Chinese leader that President Xi can trust are designated to remain in contact with each other on behalf of their presidents. Well, I don't think the relationship between Trump and Xi wasn't open because they met several times and they talked all the time by phone. They were just totally on opposite sides of the spectrum. And when Trump imposed the tariffs on China, this was how he drove business back to the United States. China didn't like it at all because this was slowing down the Chinese agenda of really taking such a strong hold within the American economy that we would eventually lose our leverage. I mean, Trump was trying to get our leverage back. And the question is, what is Kissinger saying? Does he want us to give up our leverage? Is that what he's saying to Biden? Is he saying to Joe Biden, you got to go, or, you want to change the tone? Fine, you can change the tone. China could care less what our tone is. They don't care if you throw stuff against the wall or if you want to come in there all weak, and meek. China don't care. China's looking at one thing: what are you doing? And if you want to lower the standards and allow them to have a bigger piece of the pie of the American dream, they'll take it. They'll take it and more. So the question is, will again, Kissinger's on the scene is what I'm trying to say. Henry Kissinger's on the scene. What does this mean? I'll tell you what I think it means. And I'll tell you what I know it means. Look around. World leaders everywhere are literally raising up their heads now in a uniform slogan. They're all using Build Back Better. And this theme is now being used everywhere. It's a global initiative to a changing world. I would say give your life to Jesus Christ. I could get into an entire biblical study on this right now, but I'll save that maybe for tonight. I'll be live at 7 p.m. Eastern. It will be a powerful program. I will see you guys tonight at 7 p.m. Give your life to Jesus Christ. Remember, he is coming soon. Are you saved?